Hello, welcome to Alyssa Jean's Reviews. This is my live stream review for Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 9, Rubicon. So this week I am doing my review as a live stream because, quite frankly, I'm exhausted and I just don't feel like putting in the energy for a pre-recorded, pre-edited video. So here I am. Right now, there is no one in the chat, but if people were to join the chat later on, please do note that I am not going to be interactive as I'm giving my review, because I just want to get my review out there as if this was a pre-recorded video. And then I will interact with the chat at the end if there is anyone who happens to stumble in to the chat while I am talking. Okay, so spoiler warning, of course, up through season 4, episode 9 of Star Trek Discovery. You know the drill. Yada yada, spoiler warning. So, this was a really good episode. I think it was a good companion to last week's episode. I feel like last week's episode, although at first I wouldn't have wanted it, I would have just wanted them to dive right into what became this week's episode, which is Michael chasing after Book. But I think last week's episode was important because it allowed us to stop and really see the dynamics between Book and Michael, really dive deeply into that relationship. And I was just fascinated by how easily they just kind of fell into almost accidentally working together. You could just see how much chemistry and love they had for each other, even when they were on opposite sides. That really shone through in last week's episode. And this week's episode was more, there's more action going on. It was more like tension, and this is it. This is the big moment. So it wasn't enough time to really pause and to show us that kind of relationship that we got to see last week. So I'm glad we got last week's episode, and this week was a pretty good companion to that. There was, now don't misunderstand this next statement. This is not a grand statement about the episode, but it did remind me of the film that I just watched a couple weeks ago, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, in so far as they had that really intense cat and mouse chase at the end, only this time we have two people who love each other but happen to be on opposing sides. As opposed to Wrath of Khan, you have two people who really hate each other and want revenge upon each other. So it's different dynamics, but the kind of tension is similar. And I'm not saying that it is as good as that, because I do have my issues with this episode. My biggest beef, as I will talk about in more detail as I get through my review, is the fact that all of their plans were predicated on the fact that if only we could turn Book, if we could convince Book, then everything is going to be okay. Meanwhile, completely ignoring Tarka and pretending like he doesn't exist or he doesn't matter, or that somehow he's just going to follow along with Book. And it was frustrating that they just completely disregarded him the whole time. And that's why they ended up failing in the end. There was a line, I believe it was spoken by Saru, if I remember correctly, that we know Book. We know that we could talk down Book, but Tarka is the wild card. Yes, absolutely true. But after saying that line, they did nothing about that. They did nothing to show that they really believed that, or that they listened to Saru when he said that, or that Saru even listened to his own words. Like, they did nothing to back that up. There's that line that's great. Yes, you're recognizing that Tarka is the wild card. Now actually take actions based on that knowledge, which they did not. And that was really frustrating to me in this episode. So definitely not a perfect episode, but a pretty good episode overall. So let's dive into it. We have Vance telling Burnham that somebody is coming to is going to be assigned to their ship to make sure that they get the job done. Now, before I get into who that is, I do kind of want to talk about this concept of President Rillick and Admiral Vance agreeing to send Burnham, but sending essentially a babysitter to make sure she does the job right. Yeah, at that point, you just send a different ship. I'm sorry, but you would be sending. Where's Voyager? They haven't mentioned Voyager in a little while. They used to name drop Voyager every episode, or Enterprise even. They named drop the Enterprise once. It should be a different ship with a captain who is completely unrelated. I think that. I guess the reasoning was, oh, we can talk book down. I think that's. I think Michael convinced them of that. And that's why they agreed to went along with it. But rather than sending an extra person, they should have just sent a different ship and say, let's just go after Buck. That would have been the most efficient way. But, the show needed to happen. So I don't hold too much against them for that. I mean, so the show could happen. Then we do find out who it is, and it's Non, Commander Non, and I was really glad to see her again. I really always liked this character, despite the fact that this character has uttered the worst line in Star Trek history. I see Norman Buckwald in the chat. How are you doing? He calls her a yum yum girl. And yes, that is the worst line in Star Trek history. Yum yum. When she said that, I was like, wait, did she just say yum yum? What? Worst line in Star Trek history, spoken by Commander Non. But I still like the character. I don't hold that one line against her. So I was glad to see her again. And she was a really good person to put in this position. For one thing, I'm glad that it was a known character and not an unknown character, because if it's an unknown character, then we really just drop back into the old school original series trope of the admiral or the commodore or whoever, security person, whoever it is, coming on and questioning the captain's every order. And it less feels like that when it's a known character. And it makes sense for Non to do this, as Non was the one who had to pull the trigger on Arium when Michael Burnham could not. She had to make the hard decision. And by the way, I talked about at the beginning of the season that Michael Burnham is going to need to make that hard decision. I think that was set up with the conversation she has with President Rillick at the beginning of the season. And we still haven't seen that yet. She has not done that yet. She had an opportunity to do that here and did not. So I think that still needs to come. And if it doesn't, then it would be a massive failure. It would be a massive failure on the character development for Michael Burnham. Like, they set it up at the beginning of the season, they need to follow through. She has to actually make a tough decision and sacrifice somebody. She's going to have to do that before the season's over. But it is only episode 9. There's 4 episodes left. So that's probably more of a finale thing. But if something like that doesn't happen in the finale, I'm going to call it a failure. But anyway, I do like Non's inclusion in this. I love the dynamics between the two of them. Now they go on the ship, and they first are going to do this mission where they're going to send Saru and Dr. Kolber and Bryce and Reese. And I always get Bryce and Reese confused. I can't remember. One of them is the black dude, one of them is the Asian dude, and I can never remember which one is Bryce, which one is Reese. So it's funny that they sent the two of them together, but I think I got it in this episode. I think the Asian dude is Reese and the black dude is Bryce. I'm pretty sure. And so they go on this mission, which once again is predicated on this belief that if only we can change Book's mind, then everything's going to be hunky-dory. So if, let's say Kolber was successful and he talked Book down, what's Tarka going to do? You said he's the wild card. What's your plan? What is your plan to deal with this wild card? You don't have one. You're just going to go, oh, well, Kolber will talk Book down, which is a long shot. But even if it was successful, you have no plan for Tarka. It is really frustrating. Now, then we get this scene with Bryce and Reese having this really phony argument, taking each side of the issue. And it really seemed like it was there to show us, oh, this is a really nuanced issue that even the crew members disagree with each other on. Hey, you know what? They did a really fantastic job of showing us what a nuanced issue that is In episode 7, we get it. We're done with that. We don't need to have two bad actors. I'm sorry, that's why all these minor characters don't have a lot of lines, because they're kind of bad actors. There's two bad actors having this really phony looking argument to try to make a point that has been drilled in our heads 2 episodes ago. So I did not like that scene either. Then we get to they stumble into Tarka's defense system, and the ship is going to be torn apart. Book was shocked; he had no idea that Tarka had done that, and then Book is trying to help him survive. He's not trying to kill anyone, and even Tarka, he's not a monster. Like, he had set up that defense system thinking about like pirates or other criminals who were going to come and try to steal their isolinium. He wasn't thinking of the Star Trek Discovery crew. Now, the question is, why wasn't he? Why did he not consider that? It just goes to show how single-minded Tarka is. And the bigger question is, how is it that this did not start getting the wheels turning in the heads of Michael Burnham and Saru and even Non and the Discovery crew? Hey, so Tarka set up this ruthless defense system. Maybe we should worry about him. Like, maybe that should be a big red flag, that we should be really concerned about him. And yeah, I know they know that Book would never do anything like that. So therefore, if Book wouldn't do anything like that, Tarka did. So we need to be more concerned about Tarka, not just the whole plan is, oh, we can change Book's mind and everything's going to be hunky-dory. You can change Book's mind, but Tarka is still the wild card, like Saru said. So all that was frustrating for me throughout the episode. But what I really did love about this episode is the cat and mouse stuff, and I loved how they juxtaposed the scenes with Non being kind of the devil on the shoulder for Michael, and then the scenes with Tarka doing the same with Book, and how they went back and forth between those two, and how they were both being pulled in the opposite directions. And Burnham and Book were really still trying to meet each other in the middle, while Non is pulling Michael this way and Tarka is pulling Book this way, and they're trying to meet in the middle. It was really fascinating and really, really well done. That's what I think makes this episode really excellent, and it was very exciting. This is the episode that I wanted to see after episode 7. Frustrating Tarka stuff aside, the excitement of the cat and mouse, the relationship between Burnham and Book, and the way that they're being pulled apart by opposite sides, all of that was just good, high quality stuff. Just really good writing. I loved all of that. Those aspects of the episode. There's a good case to be made that Burnham should have listened to Non earlier, or Non should have just taken control. Of course, they're not going to kill off Book that way. But as I said, I still believe Michael is going to have to make that tough decision. But it's too early. It's episode 9. So in the finale, she's going to need to do that. So then, of course, Michael goes and takes the shuttle and is able to talk Book down. Book, and it was a good plan. It was a good deal. They really got lucky that the Boromite happened to be there for another week, because I mean, it could have just been like, oh, actually, Stamets could have done all the work, and it was going to be like, yeah, it's going to be gone in 2 hours from now, and it wouldn't have mattered. But conveniently, it was a week away. But that sets up Michael to have a really good plan, a good deal for Book, which makes a lot of sense. Hey, we're going to give us a week, see if we can contact 10C, and if that doesn't work, we'll go with your plan, and Federation will back it. And Book agreed to that. But here we are. Yay, Book agreed. Everything is fine. Michael goes back to the ship and she's all happy. Yay, we succeeded. Yay. But we didn't think about Tarka at all. And neither did Book. That's Book especially. He's the one who has seen Tarka's behavior for the last several hours, or however long the real time was in this episode. This last episode. and the episode before, he's seen how Book behaves, and he didn't say to Michael, hey, we should beam Tarka over right now. Like, he put his shields down, so they should have been able to beam him over, or at least Michael could beam him over to the shuttle, or Book could have disabled the weapon, or any number of things they could have done. But they would just seem like they assumed that Tarka would just go along with that, and I have no idea why either of them, Burnham or Book, would make that assumption. In Burnham's case, like as I said, Tarka's a wild card. They should be prepared for anything from him. And Book has seen how he's been behaving for the whole episode, and he should have known perfectly well, because it was the most predictable thing in the entire universe that Tarka was going to do that. Of course he was going to do that. It was so obvious, and it frustrates me that Burnham and Book didn't see it. And the reason why they didn't see it is for plot contrivance, because the plot had to go a certain way. They wanted the episode to end the way that it did. So in order to do that, they had to have Book and Burnham and Saru and everyone else on Discovery just be completely incompetent. And that is frustrating when that happens. So that definitely did drag the episode down. I think, well, I'll get into my rating in just a minute. Actually, there's one more thing that I want to talk about that I loved. So they've been kind of building up this sort of romance between Saru and the Vulcan, or not Vulcan, Navaran president. I always forget her name, starts with a T. I really like that. It's very sweet. And this is not one of those forced Star Trek relationships. This seems like one of those ones that was kind of naturally, organically formed because of the way that the two characters interacted. That's what it feels like to me. And I love how Saru is just all like, Saru doesn't really date much, so he's all shy and like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do it. Oh, and I love how Culber was just like, you're being an idiot, dude. That's great. That's very nice. I do like this. I do like this little side story. My rating, it would be a 10 if not for all my frustrating things, because I loved the intensity. I love the cat and mouse. I loved how they really complimented last week's episode with the clashing of Burnham and Book, and yet they still very much love each other, and how they're each pulled in different directions. It was beautifully done, beautifully written. However, if that is my idea of a 10, that type of episode without all of the Tarka frustrations, then the Tarka frustrations pull it down to an 8. So my rating out of 10 for this episode is an 8. Still an overall pretty good episode for the most part. I did love most of this episode. I was just frustrated by the plot contrivance of Book and Michael being completely incompetent, just so that things could happen the way that they did. Oh, and I did actually, I gave my rating, but I forgot to mention the ending reveal that just another DMA just appeared, making Tarka's and Book's whole quest pointless to begin with. And when you think about it, if this is a mining machine and just a machine for a mining operation, why wouldn't this race just replace it? Like, if we had a machine that we use for mining and it broke, what would we do? Replace it. So it's funny to me that nobody thought of that, including the characters or the audience. I didn't think of that either, but but it makes perfect sense. Of course they would just do that. Now the aliens know that there's somebody out there trying to destroy their mining equipment. We'll see how they react to it. I'm very, very, very curious. I'm really curious to see. We got 4 episodes left, and I am hooked. I am really, really invested in this story. Let's hope they don't fuck it up. Also, in the last 4 episodes, Mary Wiseman said that Tilly wasn't done for the season. I expect her back. I'm expecting a 2-part finale, and probably Tilly will come back for that. And Adira and Gray. We need at least Adira back. So that needs to come back for sure. All right. Before I go, let me jump in the chat. I don't know if you were in there at the beginning, Norman, but I did say when I'm doing these live stream reviews, I just want to get my review all out and not stop to interact in the chat. So I haven't been ignoring you. I'm going to get back to you. You say both may eventually have more character development than Mary Mayweather. Who knows? Well, that's the problem with me going back later and looking at the chat because I don't remember who you were referring to anymore. Tarka may not be much of a genius after all. I mean, he's a genius, but maybe in other ways he's not so much of a genius. And you say a 7 for you. That's fair. I think that's what my brother gave it to. I gave it a little higher than that. Because I loved a lot of this. I was really invested. I was really excited by this episode. I really found myself on the edge of my seat, like in it, like I was engaged with the episode. So that gives a high rating for me. Oh, Reese and the other guy, Reese and it's Reese and Bryce. Bryce and Reese. I always get them confused, but I think I got it down now. I'm pretty sure I got it down now. Yeah. See, the thing about Mayweather though was he was actually a main character, and these guys are really just background characters. So I don't know. I kind of, yeah, I don't agree that there's no character development or there's a lot of showing and not telling with the character relationships. There is when it comes to these types of characters. There's definitely, or telling, not showing, rather. But when it comes to the main cast, they're very much developed. The relationships are very much shown all throughout the series. But then when these guys, when we're expected to believe that they're really close, like they have really close relationships with our main cast members, it's like, okay, if you say so. That's not what I see. But yeah, I think at this point it's too late to develop their characters. I think I said that last week as well. Like, I don't think they should have even had lines on that shuttlecraft. Just make them side characters because like their lines were just so forced. It was just so forced. Anyways, I've already given my rating and I'm still talking for a couple more minutes because thus is the nature of a live stream. So I will go ahead and get out of here. Thank you all so much for joining me. Please join me next week for my continued coverage of Star Trek Discovery as I do cover episode 10 of season 4. And I also have a video coming out tomorrow in the realm of Star Wars about the story of Mandalore. I'm going to do the Mandalore episode order hack. I'm going to tell you all the episodes that you should watch to get the complete story of Mandalore throughout 4 Star Wars television series. Okay, everyone, have a good night. I will see you soon. Thank you, Norman Buckwald, for joining me in the chat. And thank you, anyone who's watching this in the archives. And I'll see you next time.